All right. What is up, guys? Welcome to the video. Today we're gonna rip a little Q&A. Get my shoulder out of the way. If you're new to Q&As, what I always like to do is throw a little pumping iron on in the background. Reason I do this, it's probably a 40-minute video. I might start talking about a subject that you're not really that interested in. Bang, stop listening to me and watch Arnold pump some damn iron and over my, my right shoulder, and then come back. No, I say this because I'm sure, if you're watching this video for 40 minutes just looking at me, it gets boring, and I don't have a green screen, so that's why I always throw it out on, because it's just as good. So let's get started. I put a I put a Q&A on Instagram last week. We're just gonna rip it straight off the dome. I do better this way as opposed to I used to do it where I'd go through and pick them, but I kind of like trying to answer more questions and just, bang, bang, blindsided, try to hit them all. So let's get started. So first question, Logan_Diaz51, my dog. He said goals for Boston and Miami Apex. So I'm doing the Apex event. Actually, today's Monday. On Saturday's the one in Boston, and then October 10th is one in Miami. Super stoked for it. I've been back and forth with my confidence for it. I'm like, maybe some days I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do really well. Some days I'm gonna suck. I think I kind of found what I expect to get. The cool thing with the Apex, obviously, it's like a combine style event. So it's 7 events. You got a 40-yard dash with a 1-yard lead. You got a broad jump for max distance. You got a backwards medicine ball toss for max distance. You got an approach vertical jump for max height. You got a 225 bench press for as many reps as possible. You got a 405 trap bar deadlift for as many reps in 60 seconds, and you finish that off with a mile. So they actually have an app where you can put in your scores, and because it's all based off 1,000 points. And the 40 and the mile, those are both 250 points. So those are the most heavily weighted. That's half your score. And then the rest of the score is made up of the other 5 events. So they're kind of differently. I used to think everything was the same, but that's how they do it. And obviously, because I'm an endurance guy, I wish the trap bar was 25% and the mile was less. But you know what? They do it for a reason. I'm excited. Although training for the mile has kind of sucked. But it's good. It's been fun to kind of train like that. I feel like I'm playing rugby again because, the conditioning aspect with it. But the first one, this one in Boston, I think I'm just kind of, obviously I've been training hard for it, but I think it's going to be almost a feel out one, obviously you can do something in training, but either you can perform way worse in a competition or way better. And I'm hoping to perform way better with the energy of people being around you, as well as I'm doing a taper week this week, which I'll show in my next video. And I think I can do pretty well with that, but I still say that because, there's also gonna be stuff you're gonna feel out your first time doing it. So I think the Miami one in October, I think I do better. My goal for this one, so again, it's based off points. I want to be, from Boston, I want to be above 650. So 650 points, I'd be happy with that. For Miami, if I could reach 700, that'd be really cool. And obviously the biggest things that I'm gonna have to improve, I already know I'll see obviously after the Boston one, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be my mile, probably my approach vertical jump. And then you can always get better at the other stuff, but those are gonna probably be the 2 biggest, specifically the mile. Because the mile is the difference between a 659 mile and a 730 is 25-ish points, which is a lot. So just decreasing your mile time is a great way to go up in that. Obviously for me, I'm a strength guy, so I want to do as good as I can in the bench press and the trap bar. My goal in the bench, the record right now is 32. If I could hit 33, that would be sick, as Arnie's benching over there. And then the trap bar, they had the record reset because they made the rules stricter where you have to full lockout. I would love to get above 40. I don't know though. That could be anywhere. I haven't tested that fresh. I tested it after I did 4 heavy sets of deads, and obviously my score was skewed because I'm pretty confident I can do 10 to 12 more reps than what I got. So those events I'm excited for. 40. So this is what my goals for Boston are. So I ran a 4.72 leading up to this. If I could break a 4.75 at the event, I'd be happy with that. I'd love to jump over a 9.6 broad, 34-inch vert, over a 66-foot backwards med ball toss. I want to do at least over 30 reps on bench. I want to do over 40 reps on the trap bar, and then the mile if I go sub 7.5. So that's my goals now. I forgot the exact score with that. And then for Miami, my goal would be from there to progress to a sub 4.7. So a 4.69 hopefully a 9/8 broad, like add 2 inches, like maybe a 35-inch vert. Maybe if bench and trap bar I could keep the same, in the mile I get below 6. That could be the difference in like 50 points, and going from like, I don't know exactly what the points are, I've thrown in the calculator, but 650 to 700. So I'm just excited to train for something, man. I just think the actual competition, I've seen them obviously on Instagram, they look like such a fun time. I think people PR out there just have the energy. So I think I'm one of those guys. I think I perform better, around people juiced up. And again, I think this taper that I'm doing this whole week, and again, I'll talk about in the next video, I'm just significantly reducing my volume, and I haven't done this in probably like years, and I already know I should feel good if I do it right. As long as I bring my volume down and keep the intensity there, I think I do better than I think, but who knows, that's what it makes it fun. That's what I'm excited for. So go from there. Callum_Duncan_ said dream collabs. What would be my dream collab? There's probably a million. I probably ripping off the dome, I can't really think about it, but honestly, anyone who works out, and there's so many cool people I've met via like social media now. That's why I always say, man, you should just post on social media. Not even if you want a following, you just can meet a lot of cool people. Like, I think people always talk about the negatives of social media. If you use social media correctly as a tool, man, there are so many positives to it. You can build a business on there, and then you can just build relationships. You can network. You can meet cool people, and especially being in fitness, like you just message random people all the time, and like, oh, I'm down in Miami, and this guy lives down there. We end up training together. We end up becoming friends. Or I'm over in Austin, and you train with someone. So I think it's just a cool way to connect with more people than you ever had the opportunity to. So I'd say a dream collab. Probably Arnie. No, seriously, I think Christian Guzman would be cool. I've been watching him since I was like 13. I need to go down to Alpha Land. I need to go down and visit there because that gym looks awesome. I love going to gyms and visiting gyms. So I think he would be one. I have YouTube over here, so I'm trying to think of who I watch on YouTube. There are a lot of people I'd love to collab with and work out with. I just kind of go as I get C-Bum, but technically I did work out with C-Bum last year. Funny enough, if you've watched the channel last year, literally this time last year, I work with Raw Nutrition. They brought me down for like a shoot, and it was with Chris, C-Bum, and then 2 other guys. We lifted together. We did a chest and shoulder day. There's 4 of us, so it was kind of like, we were kind of all lifting together, but technically I lifted with C-Bum, and then we did a skit together. So technically I did that collab, but it would be cool to obviously train. I think that would probably be the dream one, just because he's training for like the jacked and athletic style, and obviously that's the way I've been training my whole life. It would be cool and he's just a great guy, cool guy. So probably C-Bum, Christian Guzman. There's probably a million others I can't think of, but just off the top of the old dome. Great question. How much time, mustache_Mike E with 3 E's. With 3 E's, how much time do you give between pre-workout meal and lifting? So funny enough, I just ate my pre-workout meal at like 11:30, and I'm gonna go train around 12:30. So some days, usually I have like an hour. I found, like, I know the recommendation is 60, 90 minutes. 90 minutes for me is always way too long, because if it's 90 minutes, I'm gonna be in the gym it's gonna be another 3 hours after that before I get food. So honestly, I could work out 20 minutes after having that meal, just because it's so light and it's so easy to eat. But typically, I would say an hour is kind of my time frame. And I think it kind of depends on, like, 60 to 90, I think is usually the recommendation. But I think it also depends on how long you lift for. If you're in the gym for 2 hours and then it takes another 30 minutes to get home, and you wait 90 minutes and you're gonna go, what's that, like 4 hours without food, it could be a long time. Whereas if you're only in the gym for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, it could be either or. But I would say, obviously quick digesting carbs was something that's going to be in the system quick. And for me, I've always been someone where I'd rather feel a little fuller than a little hungrier when I train, personally. So I don't mind like training. I could eat and go 20 minutes after. But typically an hour is my go-to. So Benjamin.K.17 asked, how do you deal with having to take time off for travel or other things? So I'll be honest, I'm at a point in my life where the reason I do travel is to work out. So I don't know if this really applies to me, because I literally travel now, and that's why I travel, is to go work out other places or with other people. And even if it was traveling with like family or something, or another, like a wedding or something, I would still find a way to train. I think it's the beauty of gyms, man. There's gyms everywhere. And if get a day pass somewhere. You can find a gym in the area. And that's one of my favorite parts of traveling. I love gyms. Like, I love gyms. I love gym owners. Gym owners and me, we get along so well. Those are my guys and girls. I don't know if I actually ever met a girl, but it's fun going to other gyms because every gym has a different vibe, different equipment, different this and that. And it's just fun going around the US and, trying out different gyms, especially when you're trapped, especially when you're like in the middle of nowhere and you're just like, all right, gym's near me. And then you end up finding a badass gym. Like, that's always so cool. Like, when you just throw something up there, you're like the middle of Virginia and you find this cool gym or something. So that's one of my favorite parts of traveling. And obviously now, I travel, and obviously working out is now it's my job, my obsession, my hobby, all this and that. So it's never really been something where it kind of slacks off because that's such a large part of my day. But even when I was younger and when I was in high school and I didn't have control over like vacations and stuff, I would still go find a gym, or even if there wasn't one convenient, I'd find a way to work out. That was always kind of the way. Paul_J60, what are your future plans with PowerJacked? Ooh, actually, great question. So PowerJacked right now, it's on the Chalk Performance app, so it's a subscription team. Let's go a little origin of PowerJacked. So PowerJacked is just a style of training I do, the jacked and athletic style of training. It's nothing new, nothing revolutionary. It's been around forever. Tons of people do it. It's an awesome way to train. I just wanted to obviously, you want to put your own spin on it, your own name on it. So I found a PowerJacked about a little over 2.5 years ago now, when I was thinking of a plan. It started as like a training team on Trainer Oak. I probably upwards of like 70 people on it once. And then I also have my 8-week plans, the PowerJacked plan, which is an 8-week set plan. Been doing that for the last 2 years. And then in February of this year, I transitioned to Chalk Performance, and now my PowerJacked team is on there, which I believe we have almost 2,000 people on it. Last month there was 1,700 people on it. So my goal is to keep building that. I think the cool thing being on the Chalk app, so Chalk, little background of it, Ryan Fisher, he started that app. It's his app. He was an elite CrossFitter, elite athlete, and he's built it to have over 65,000 people on it. Absolutely absurd. The community's built on it, which is really cool. So when he reached out to me to be on it, I was like, no brainer. Yeah, I would love to be on it. So I think the goal is to obviously always keep growing it, because my favorite thing in the world is when people DM me, or even in person, even cooler, when they're like, oh man, I do your programming. I love it, man. I'm like, you do my programming? Like, it's funny because I know obviously I look at my sales, how many people buy my program a month, or how many people have brought it, or how many people are on the app, but it's still special when someone tells you in person, you're like, oh man, you trust me enough to follow my program and you're making gains, because that's a cool thing. And obviously I spend a ton of time on it. I want to write the perfect plan, and I'm always updating it every week, and putting in new ideas, trying out new stuff in my training to make it the best. But it is cool when people are doing that. So I guess the plans continue to grow it on Chalk. Just make it I've just always, wanted a cool plan out there. I think a lot of people, there are so many great plans out there, man. Like, it's always cool when people, I guess, use my plan, because I'm like, man, people trust my plan when there's all these other smart dudes out there, or more jacked dudes that you could follow. But I think it's the beauty of it, man. Like, again, try out different plans. There's so many people who put out good stuff, and it's just cool that people, I guess, support me by utilizing and trust me enough with their training, because it's a huge honor, and I'm always juiced up. But plans would just continue to grow that sucker, and it'd be cool to have 10,000 members on it. I don't know how long that would take if it ever got to that point, but I think it could, and it continues to kind of build and build and build it. Marcus_S37, do you train for strength or muscle growth, or do you do both? So I've always trained for both. I've always been in like that power building style of training. Ever since I started lifting when I was 13, I've always had a fascination of just getting big and strong. And my correlation was always, the stronger you are, the bigger you're gonna get, which is a correlation. Usually the biggest guys are the strongest. So I've always cared about, my squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, lifting heavy weights. And then, when I was about 15, 16 in college or high school, I got really into the strength and conditioning side with like football, with sprinting, jumping, and then trying to be the most powerful athlete. And my idea, I've always wanted to be like just big, strong, fast, powerful, like take up space, can move some freaking weight, and you look sick. So I would say my goal has always been both. And always, with my training, I always emphasize both, but for example, I'll go through phases. Like in the springtime, I was more in a hypertrophy plan. Now I was still progressing my other lifts, but I was doing a lot more bodybuilding stuff. And obviously my training now, I do a ton of I love bodybuilding. I love powerlifting. I love sport performance side. And I think that's a fun thing to train, is putting those puzzle pieces together and interlinking them, and trying to different phases, going through different stuff. But I've always been into both, and I always will be. Even if I ever did a bodybuilding show, which I have no idea if I ever would, I would still sprint, jump, and lift heavy, and get my squat, bench, deadlift up, and all that, because that's just what excites me. What really excites me in the gym is, obviously it's cool to see your physique changing, but I get driven by numbers. Like, I'm going in, it's a deload week this week, but typically I'd be going in, I just hit triples last week on my squat, bench, deadlift, and I have a number on that I want to hit, and if I weren't to hit that, I would get a little frustrated, and that's what drives me, is like hitting those numbers and seeing that progression week to week. And I think if my strength is going up, then my physique will change alongside with it, but that's a lot slower process, so that's why I've always been into that. So I like both. All right, so Sophia ZA _ asked on YouTube, but can you make a video on rest days in your weekly schedule? Rest days, good. Great question. Rest days are great. I never want someone to think they don't have to rest. I know sometimes I don't do rest days and I go in and end up doing these workouts. There's a reason you have to rest and how important it is. Sometimes I should listen to my own damn advice. Some days I go in on a rest day and I end up working out, which isn't resting. I think you see a lot of these people do like recovery workouts. The best way to recover on a rest day is to literally do nothing. I would say maybe just light walking. I go in and I do abs and other stuff. That's still probably too much exercise on a rest day where it's causing you to recover. You want to try to do something where you're not causing any like damage, where your body doesn't have to recover more. Otherwise, you're just defeating the purpose. But if you are like me and you just like doing something every day, like doing some abs, maybe doing some arms, something light that's not gonna be super taxing, could be a good way to do it. But I think obviously rest days are super important. I never want to downplay them. We know how important they are. But if you are, psychotic like me and you like going to the gym every day, you could just, do a little light stuff, throw it in, and then you kind of figure out like what works for you. And then what's my weekly schedule? So right now, I've been doing Monday has been sprint and lower body. Tuesday has been like a push day, maybe some cardio. Wednesday has been a pull day where I deadlift, and then I do like the mile prep conditioning. Thursday has been a rest day where I'll do like some ab stuff. Friday had been sprints and lower body. Saturday has been like a upper push-pull, essentially chest and back, and then some conditioning, and then Sunday had been shoulders and arms. I was doing that the last couple of weeks leading up to this Apex. I'm doing the Apex this week with a taper week, so I'm only gonna train 3 times this week, and then going from this Apex into the next one, I'm gonna figure that out. I might keep that split. I realize with me, it's like I'm stoked for the Apex. I want to do as well as possible. I just know myself, and I also love the bodybuilding side and getting my squat, bench, and deadlift up. So I don't know if I'd ever do a plan where it's just strictly all for the Apex, all sitting around those 7 events, which maybe I should, but it's just like I like doing that other stuff too. So that's why I still lift 6 days a week and do all this other volume. But maybe we'll see. Maybe I do so bad in this one, I get so pissed off, I'm like, all right, we're gonna lock in and just go strictly towards that. But typically that's what I've been doing. 6 days a week of lifting. Look, it's excessive, it's a lot. I just love being in the gym, and I like that split. And then, sprinting, I've always sprint twice a week, so those are always 8 sessions there. And then now I've been adding in more conditioning, having to prepare for this mile. So rest days are great though. Good question, John Denson. John_Denson, my guy. How far into lifting did you realize this is something you want to do for a very long time? Great question. Sorry to block your screen of Arnie, by the way. So I don't know. I think I just got hooked from lifting from the moment I started. Like, I remember I first started lifting summer of 8th grade, going to my freshman year of high school. And my parents' house, they had a squat rack. They still do, still there, in the old dungeon. But growing up, Christmas of 2007, I was like 8. My parents got one of those squat racks with like the Smith machine attachment, the preacher curl, the leg extension. It was one of those like multi-gym uses. I think the company's called, it's either Marcy or Mercy. So that was in my house growing up. And so like when I was in 6th and 7th grade, I had no idea what I was doing. So technically I kind of started lifting in 6th and 7th grade. But I remember my go-to workout, I would do barbell bench, preacher curl, leg extension, abs. common theme, anterior. If I couldn't see it, I wasn't training it. But I just did that because it was like the 4th thing's most convenient. So I was doing that here and there, 6th and 7th grade, and then 8th grade. That's when my brother Liam wrote me a split, which comes to find out, it was actually Steve Cook's Big Man on Campus split. So that was the first, I guess, program I ever ran. And I remember lifting in there in the summer, going to my freshman, so I was like 14, and I'm rigging a pump the first time, and I just loved it. And literally since then, I have been obsessed with it, obsessed. And look, I've been lucky that I've only gotten, knock on wood, I hate talking about this, but injured one time. I broke my ankle in high school playing football, but even still, I didn't miss a beat in the gym. I still trained legs. I just found a way around. I still did leg press and other stuff. I did upper body. So I don't know. I like to think, I'm lucky, or maybe not lucky. I don't know. I've had this obsession. I've been obsessed with it for 14 years now, and lucky enough, it's turned into a career that I get to do this for a living, which is wild, absolutely wild. But I don't know if there can be any motivation there to someone. I think it's like, I think everyone, I actually saw a good post on this. John Heck had this yesterday. People always asking like, oh, how do you grow on social media? How do you do this on social media? I think the best way to grow on social media is you got to have something to offer, whether that's, especially in fitness, the people who just like blow up overnight, they didn't blow up overnight, they blew up because they just started posting, but usually they have the physique, the strength, or the athleticism, or something that they spent years and years building. So, I think if you're posting in fitness or whatever, or like you have an obsession with it, like especially if you're younger, keep building, and then, eventually you have that blueprint and you can kind of, not to say you can't start posting until you achieved a certain amount. I don't want to sound like that. You can start posting right now. I don't want to hinder anyone's progress in that sense, but I think it's cool that you can be really passionate about something. And if you're passionate about something, obviously you can be obsessed with it, and naturally you're going to get better at it. And then you could turn it into a career now with social media. Like you can be obsessed with, I was trying to think of something, bowling or art or music, and you can post on social media and make a living out of that. And now in fitness, I think it's a cool thing about social media is like you can share anything and you'll find a community. But I think not that you have to be good at it, but I don't want to sound like that, but like you have to have some proof that you know what you're talking about, or like for fitness, obviously easy thing is your physique is something like that, or your strength or whatever it is. So but yeah, I'm glad like I've been obsessed with it since. It hasn't hindered, like literally. Yeah, do you think I'm motivated to work out every day? Hell no. 80, 50, 70% of the time I'm not motivated to work out. I just do it. And it's just such a habit of my life. And now, yeah, obviously my day kind of revolves around it now because it is my job. But I built to that. I think sometimes I get guilty of myself. I'm like, I don't deserve this and that. I don't deserve that, because I've become so routine to what I do. And then not to pat myself in the back, but sometimes I got to look back. It's like, well, bro, you're spending 4 hours in the gym. Like, how many other people can say they're doing that? Like, you've earned the right to be here, and you continue to do that. And because I'm so kind of like, not negative of myself, but like, always wanting to improve, like, because I work out for a living now, I work out longer and more than I ever have, because I would feel guilty if this is all I had to do, make content around it, and I worked out a couple days a week. So that's why I overtrain. And, I never want someone to think they have to train the way I do. That's why my programs, when I make them, they take the large majority of what I do, but it's not exactly what I do, because most people don't have all the time of the day like I do to train, or their life revolves around it. So I never want someone to seem like, if they're only training 3 days a week, that's not good enough. That's great. 3, 4, 5, 2, whatever you can get in. As long as you're getting after it, I got nothing respect for you. I like to train a lot. I like to overtrain because I've always I have always overtrained. But now that I do it for a living, it's like, damn. I gotta make more. The more I can train, the more I spend time doing something I love, the more content I can make, and I can, it just holds you accountable. It's awesome. But to go back to, I guess, the original question was, when did I realize I want to do this for a long time? I guess from the moment I started. Because really from the moment I started, I always knew since I was like in elementary school, I wanted to do something in sports. And fitness and sports kind of interlink. So I guess from a young age, and then ever since I became lifting, I've just been obsessed with it, and yeah, it's been dope. Oh, Biddies_PT, get rid of one forever. Barbells, dumbbells, machines. Ooh, probably dumbbells, honestly. I don't really even use dumbbells that much. I do, but not as much as the other two. So honestly, it's pretty easy. Dumbbells, if I had to pick two, barbells would be the only one I would keep. if you can only keep one, but definitely barbells and machines. Dumbbells, honestly, what do I even use dumbbells for? Everything I use a dumbbell for, I could use a machine or a barbell for. So I think definitely dumbbells. Okay, I got a lot of these questions literally back to back. So tips for skinny guys trying to put on size diet-wise, and then right above it, having a hard time going on a bulk or eating more because I need to put on size. So what are, I guess, tips? I guess I kind of started off skinny when I was younger. I was, like a $125 when I first started lifting. And then throughout high school, obviously you have puberty on your side your first couple of years, but I went from 125 to 195. So I put on 70 pounds in high school. And I think the biggest thing was, obviously you guys probably know, like, you got to eat. It's probably pretty basic, and you're probably asking this because you have a hard time eating, which I don't want to sound like I can't relate to. I have an easy time eating. I'm kind of the opposite, man. I literally downed like 8 slices of pizza yesterday, and I've always been like that. But I think you just gotta shovel food. If it's hard to eat, find ways to make eating easier. So again, I've never done this because I've never had a problem with eating. My problem's always been eating too much. But, I think maybe drink more liquid calories, drink more protein shakes, milk. I think whole milk, slugging whole milk, like, you can add so many extra calories throughout the day if you have whole milk to 3-4 meals, like a 16-ounce glass of that. You could have, like 600 to 800 calories that way. So if you have a hard time eating, I would say something like that. But if it's not a hard time eating, you're just trying to gain weight, I think I've literally, for 8 years, I just bulked from freshman year of high school till like my senior year of college. I just had this gradual bulk. Went from 125 to like 195 my senior year of high school. And I think I got up to like 220 my senior year of college. So nothing crazy, but it's just a progressive, like, small bulk over the course of those years. And I'm always glad I did that, because I'm glad when I was younger, I didn't bulk and cut. I don't know the right way to do it, but I feel like you should spend a long portion, maybe not 8 years, but maybe like 3, 4, 5 years bulking, and then you build up this mass, and then maybe you start cutting and you start doing that bulk cut cycle. Because I feel like in your earlier years, like, you don't really have any mass to cut down to. So if you're just constantly always cutting, bulking, you could just be spending that time slowly bulking up, because you really don't have as much muscle when you're, in high school, obviously. So I would say just a gradual increase in calories. Like, I'm not saying like eating dirty bulk and eating everything in sight, but man, eat seconds. If your parents cook dinner for you, I wish I didn't take that for granted when I was a kid, because my parents are great cooks, and I would just eat the house every night. 2-3 plates. I'd add milk to every meal. Look, I went to public schools my whole life. I ate public school lunch, which people hate on. Love public school lunch. I would go in there, the cafeteria lady, she knew me every day. She would hold 2 spicy chickies off to the side for me. So I always got it. I'd come in, give it a little wink. She would give it to me, and then I'd grab like 2 chocolate milks, a bunch of Rice Krispie treats. So not the healthiest diet, but I think that's the thing, man. When you're younger in high school, I remember the first year I started lifting, I actually tracked my calories. When I was a freshman in high school, I remember at the time, If It Fits Your Macros was so popular. And so I got a food scale like I have now, and I used to track everything. And that was the year I probably gained the least amount of weight, because I was so obsessive with food. I went from like 135 to like 145. And then I stopped tracking stuff, and bang, I just shot up in weight because I just started eating more. But I'm glad I did that, because I think when you're in high school, you don't have to be that restrictive. You don't have to be eating chicken and rice. Fuck, you can go to McDonald's, you can go to Chick-fil-A, you can eat all that stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're growing, you're building muscle, like, you're training hard with it. I have nothing against it. I still do that. But I think if you're younger, like, don't be so obsessive with the calories. Just try to eat. Just try to eat food and just train hard. And then always think like, hey man, if I eat more, then I can train harder, because you're always going to train harder. You're going to have more fuel to pull off of. And if you love to work out and it's easier to do it that way, you're like, oh, hell yeah. And then you're getting stronger. Then it just feeds into the system. So I say that I'm glad what I did is I took a long time bulking, because that long bulk, led to be able to cut later down the road. And I think it just also kind of, in those early years, kind of gave me the love for training, because I was getting stronger week by week because I had so much fuel in my system. So I would say, if you have a hard time eating, just eat. I know it's dumb, but find ways to add more food. I don't know how else to tell you, but it's the best way that worked for me. Noah_VVZ. Would you rather have a plus 100 pounds on any lift, or have plus 10 pounds on any lift every month? Oh, give me the plus 10 pounds on any lift every month. Are you kidding me? That 2 years, that's 240 pounds, brother. 2 years, that's 240 pounds. I guess if you put it towards one lift. Okay, you're saying you can do it on 10 on any. I'd still do that because, you know, this month, the next 3 months I added it to my squat, there's 30 pounds there. And I spent 3 months adding it to my deadlift. And then 10 a month. Because, man, I went like 2 years without PRing on a lift. My strength was so stagnant, and then it's starting to climb back up, and it's been so nice adding. Again, I talked about it earlier, but what has always driven me in the gym is slapping another plate on there. You know, milestone lifts, 2-plate bench, 3-plate bench, 4-plate bench. That's what fires me up. And so, yeah, it'd be cool. It's cool to getting stronger. I've always that's what drives me in the gym as a strength. So I definitely probably 10 pounds every week. Ooh, good question. What brands do you recommend for your training equipment, shoes, belts, etc.? Great question. I think there are a million good brands out there. Shoes, I've always worn the Adidas Powerlifts. Been wearing those. I've had 4 pairs over the last 7 years. Love those. Think they're a go-to shoe. You know, they've got that elevated heel, great for squats, all that stuff. And then I also just love the Nike Free Run Metcons. I like these a lot. For belts, I use a lot of stuff from Gym Reapers. My belt's from Gym Reapers, but I think you can get a belt from anywhere, Rogue, Gym Reapers, whatever. I have like a 10 millimeter, I believe, prong belt, which I really like. And then straps, you can get literally anywhere. I've had straps from nowhere, they're all the same. So yeah, good question. Mr. Jack M 9876, what's been the best thing that's helped you stay consistent with training? Best thing, I don't know. I get asked this, like, how do you stay consistent? I don't know, it's just part of me. Like, I don't know what I would do if I didn't work out. I don't know. So I don't know if there's been one thing that's helped me stay consistent. It's just what I do. I just work out every day. That's just always how it's always been. Obviously you have days you're not motivated. Obviously you have days you miss days. But for the large majority of my life, I've just been consistent with it. I don't know why. Again, I talked about it earlier. I think I just was hooked from the beginning. It's just been something I really enjoy doing, but you know, working out has always just been like eating. You got to eat in the day, right? You got to drink water. So it's always been the same thing with working out. I think what helps staying consistent with something is just not being a perfectionist. I think that's the biggest thing, is not being like, you have this perfect routine and then you mess up that perfect routine, you're a failure, and then that kind of leaves you worse off. So I think the biggest thing is imperfect consistency. So having standards, having all this and that, but not holding yourself to an unrealistic standard that's just going to lead you less motivated and less this and that. So I think staying consistent just comes down to, you know, identify how many times you want to train a week, what you want to do throughout that week, and then, you know, try to get as close to that as possible. Maybe if some weeks you hit that, maybe some weeks you don't, maybe you have to adjust it, that's totally fine, but not getting caught up in comparing yourself to others, what other people are doing, and because you have a different schedule, different everything than someone else. So hold yourself to a standard, try to get as close to that as possible, realize you're not gonna be perfect, and then also realize you're never gonna be motivated. Most of the time you're not motivated, you know, have to find other systems besides motivation to go work out. Maybe you need a workout partner, maybe that's a better gym, whatever it is. But I think build routines around it is a great way to stay consistent. Ooh, good question. Grayer Taylor _ I struggle with getting to my head before my compounds. What have you found helps? Brother, I still get in my head during a lot of, you know, compound heavy lifts, but I found like the less I think, the better. Obviously that's probably pretty common, but like when I'm not overwhelmed, I'm kind of just like, so I think music helps, just like kind of zoning out. And I think that's why I love the gym too. I zone out so much in the gym. I'm just kind of like, you know, staring at the ground, listening to some tunes. But I think what helps obviously is just not thinking about that lift, not thinking how heavy and how much it's gonna hurt, you know, saving that pain for when it's actually helping or when it's actually happening. You know, a lot of times I get overwhelmed by a lift because I'm thinking, oh, this set of 5 squats is gonna kick my ass. Oh, it's gonna hurt, I might fail. And then you get overwhelmed and you're psyched out by it, rather than just being like, let's just listen to tunes right now. Let's listen to tunes, and then you kind of bring your levels down, and then you get excited for the lift, and then you go after it. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think kind of find a routine that works for you. What I've always helped for me is just, say I just finished a heavy set, I rack it, I'm probably taking like 5-7 minutes in between. I'm like kind of listening to music, just kind of chilling, sitting at the end of the bench, staring at the ground. And then when the lift comes, usually I'll kind of stand up like 2 minutes before and just kind of like get ready for it. And then usually I just find like within that 2 minutes, like a point where I just feel psyched up enough. I'm like, all right, and then I go and just walk in and squat or do it. So I think everyone's different. I think you just got to find your routine, but I think it's so common. Everyone gets psyched out over, stuff, lifting heavy weights. Like, that's what makes fun though. That's what makes fun. So I think leaning into it too, leaning into the psych and getting fired up and riding that lightning. I think that's a good way to do it. Where are we in pumping iron? Just Arnie in the tracksuit. Golly, I strive. One day. I guess my hair's kind of similar. But anyways, I'll do a couple more. This video is probably gonna be pretty long, but hey, I like keeping it long. I'm a long guy, as you guys know. Pause? I don't know. A lot of good questions. I apologize if I didn't get to yours. So we got the pre-workout right here. About to go lift. We got the peach mango raw essential. Oh, good question. Liam_more. Why did you start making videos and posting? Do you just enjoy filming or helping others, etc.? Great question, Liam. Why did I start making videos? I wanted to put myself out there. I think, I've told this story a million times. Now I've been on their podcast twice now, which is awesome and cool enough to call them friends. They're awesome dudes, Tim and Zach. But there's this podcast, if you're not familiar, it's called the Coach Mob Podcast. Great strength and conditioning podcast. Tim Riley and Zach Zillner run it. And at the time, I was a strength and conditioning coach. This was about 2.5 years ago. And I remember they had, like, one of their first episodes, I think it was their third or so episode. They had Kelly Matthews on, who's Tim's girlfriend, but she's Kelly Matthews. She's a dog. She's a beast. You probably know who she is. But they were kind of talking about their journeys and how they got to where they were. And I was like, damn. Because at the time, I had no social media following or anything. I wasn't even posting. And they had I think Kelly at that point she's well over 1 million now, but she probably had like 500,000. Tim and Zach were both probably like 100,000. I was like, damn. I was like, hearing their stories, like, man, I can relate to that. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. Oh, I've done this and that. And it's like, for some reason, I used to always think like people online, not to put like people, influencers, first off, you should never put an influencer or someone online on a pedestal. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's always, obviously now I have a following, people follow me. But I still think sometimes people are like, oh man, I didn't expect you to be like that in person. I thought you were going to be like the stuck up influencer. I was like, really? I was like, I hope people aren't like that in person. I hope people don't think they're better than they are because they have a following, because no one is better than anyone because they have a following on Instagram. So never let that get in your head. Never, get intimidated by that or think you're less because someone has a following, because at the end of the day, it's just a number. Yeah, they've worked hard to build that and this and that, but yeah, don't put influencers on a pedestal. They're all normal people, just like anyone, just like athletes. Don't put them, everyone's normal, I think once you realize that, like, it's an equal playing field, it makes life a lot better. Because I used to always put everyone on a pedestal. But I say that because, I would see someone with like a following, I was like, oh man, you always think, you forget how people got to the place they were at. Like, you think they were just there, and you forget obviously they've had to work to get there. And so I think that's why it's cool to like listen to people and follow people who are similar to you and have a similar background to you, because that could be the blueprint, that could be you in the future. So anyways, they had a similar blueprint background to me, and I listened to it, and I was like, I'm gonna start posting on social media. And I remember it was March 19th, 2024, and I was strength and conditioning coach at the time. I was playing rugby, so I kind of just started posting. I guess I kind of started posting a couple months prior, like a month or two prior, but very inconsistently. I would just throw out random like strength and conditioning advice, like, here's my upper body workout I'm doing to become a stronger rugby player. Here's a random ab exercise I did. So I guess I'd started posting like 6 months before, but it was like, I probably only posted like 30 times in those 6 months. It was just kind of random stuff. And it was then listening to that, I was like, you know what? And I had like I made like 200 followers. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go all in and I'm gonna start posting. And then from there, I've just been treating it just like working out. I've just been super consistent and just posting a ton, and been super lucky. It's grown into what it has. And yeah, so I genuinely just enjoy making content. I grew up, it's funny, obviously I'm 27 now, but I grew up on YouTube watching people give me advice on, so it's cool, it's a full circle now that I give people advice on YouTube. I think it's really cool. And that's, at the end of the day, man, like, I'm fortunate, I have a coaching programs and people buy my programs, I can make a living off of it, but I am not money driven at all. I care less about that. I just love working out, and I want to share with someone else, because there's a lot of like-minded people around. And yeah, the fact people can look up to me, or, you know, if they get a piece of information from me and that helps them in their workouts, that's what fires me up. So yeah, so I guess I do now enjoy posting. I think it is fun creating content and putting so yeah, camera overheated again. It's been like 12 times, but I was kind of finished with that one. So you know what, I'll do 2 more questions. Oh, my guy Victor, great question. Have you ever thought about doing a bodybuilding show? You know, as I watch Arnold right there, I have, but I don't know if it'll be anytime soon. I think, again, I talked about the Apex. I'm super stoked for this and training for this. And I think this is the first time I've ever done a competition before. I've been lifting for 13 years. You know, obviously I've played sports. That was always my competitions, but it's the first time I'm actually doing something that's like geared towards working out. I've never done a powerlifting, bodybuilding, Olympic lifting. So that's why I'm really excited for Apex. Because again, it encapsulates my style of training, the way I've been training my whole life. So I'm gonna ride these for a little bit. I mean, I'm doing this one, I'm doing the one in Miami, the one they're doing next in December, wherever it is, I'm gonna do that one. I'm just gonna keep ripping them because I'm excited for it, because you know, each one I should get better and better. I should learn how to train. It just gets me excited. But maybe bodybuilding show, if I ever did one, it would probably be not a long way down the line, but maybe a couple years. But I definitely, you know, would love to endure that process, because I got nothing respect for somebody who does a show, man. All the prep seems very hard, you know, the dieting, all this and that. And I feel like you leave it and you learn a lot of things. Obviously I've never done it, so I don't know, but I imagine you learn a lot about yourself and you can apply it to other aspects. So it would be something I'd love to do, you know, just to, even if I never got into bodybuilding, just do it one time to say you did it. You know, I think that's cool. And I think that's what I'm sort of, you know, approaching things now. It's like, in my head, I've always thought, oh, I can only commit to doing this if I commit to doing it for now the rest of my life. It's like, well, why can't you do a competition one time? You know, just like I would love to do a powerlifting meet or an Olympic lifting meet. And it's like, why not just do it once? At least you can say you did it and you tried and you learned things along the way. So I think that's something I would love to do, but don't know when it would be. In my head, my physique's not good enough. But again, who knows? It would be cool. It would be cool to get that diced. Because I've always been curious, like, how much would I actually weigh on stage? Because, you know, I always see people and it's a lot lighter than they think. Like, I'm 225 now. Like, would it be 195? Would it be 200? Would it be sub 190? And then how would I look? You know, I think it would be cool. So I think one day, I don't know, it would be cool. I always say I want to do it like going into the summer. So then the rest of the summer, you're just jacked for it. So who knows? We'll see. I'm definitely excited for these Apex and ripping those, but that could be something maybe a couple years down the line. All right, we'll actually cut it there. I appreciate all the questions as always. Woo, back double bye, baby. See, watching that just fired me up. I'm like, it would be fun to do something like that. But yeah, appreciate all the questions, guys. Yeah, gonna rip a Q&A today. I think I might do another one this week with someone, with a guest. So I'm stoked for that. But yeah, just trying to churn out these YouTube videos, uploading every other day is what I do. So 4 times one week, 3 the next. Again, I know you want to see those tutorial videos. I'll start churning those out. But again, let me know anything else you want to see. Let me know any questions you guys got. You guys are goated. I'll see you guys in the next one. Sack damn days. Peace.